And welcome back to another episode of Crunch Time. I'm Noah Elkin.
I'm Austin Mann. As usual, we have a variety of topics from the amazing world of sports. So sauce me with that first one.
All right, Austin. Well, last week was, of course, the NBA trade deadline, so we have lots of trades to talk about. Real quick, we want to apologize for the sound, if you can hear that. It's very windy today in Colorado. Obviously, we don't have a studio or whatever.
Our studio is just my very, 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 very shitty garage. But, you got to start somewhere.
You got to start somewhere. All right. So let's get into it. I'm just going to kind of go through some of the ones I thought were more significant. Tobias Harris and Boban Marjanovic went to the Sixers. Notable pieces that were given up were Landry Shamet and Wilson Chandler. Also, 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks. Stanley Johnson got traded to the Bucks for Thon Maker. The Bucks then, in turn, went around and turned Johnson and Jason Smith into Mirotic from New Orleans. Harrison Barnes got traded to the Kings for Justin Jackson and Zach Randolph. Marc Gasol went to the Raptors for Jonas Valanciunas, T.J. Miles, and Delon Wright, as well as a 2024 second-rounder. Otto Porter Jr. got traded to the Bulls for Jabari Parker and Bobby Portis. Markelle Fultz, obviously former number 1 overall pick, traded to the Magic for Jonathan Simmons, as well as a first and a second pick. Markieff Morris got traded to New Orleans for Wesley Johnson. This moves the Wizards under the salary cap. And that's it right now.
Yeah, it just seems like based on what you read, the Wizards just kind of went on a fire sale during this trade.
And you know what? That doesn't surprise me whatsoever. Actually, we were going to mention later on, John Wall just had surgery, but he still is not expected to make a return for at least a year. With that being said, and also looking at the Wizards' performance this year, really doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, honestly, I just think the Wizards kind of held on to this idea they're going to make the playoffs for too long, and I'm glad they finally came to their senses before this trade deadline. And I think, honestly, the Otto Porter, I feel like you could have gotten a better deal a little bit. I think you could have gotten at least a second-round pick attached to it. But, Bobby Portis, pretty good player. If you saw one of his first games with the Wizards, he dropped 31 points off the bench, so looks like a good trade. The real question I have for the Wizards is, do you think they trade Bradley Beal over the summer?
I've been thinking about that myself.
Just think about though, John Wall's out for a year. You've already traded Otto Porter, Markieff Morris.
Yep.
is about to be released and bought out, signed with another team. Essentially, your starting lineup is depleted. I mean, Kelly Oubre Jr. was traded earlier this season. It's just, I don't know. I think I wouldn't be surprised if I see Bradley.
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more I think it definitely could happen. Off the top of my head, I'm just trying to think of teams that need them. What about the Hornets? If Kemba Walker stays, if Kemba Walker goes, I don't think so. If Kemba Walker stays, I think that would immediately be a top 5 backcourt in the NBA.
That would be a deadly backcourt. I'd say if AD somehow wanted to stay in New Orleans, I think the Pelicans
that would be good too.
With him, Drew Holiday, AD, that's a nice pick.
I think we're past that point for AD though.
But we're past it. He wants to go to a big market team.
Yeah, I mean, the Pelicans weren't even going to play him the rest of the year. The league told him that they had to, so they're literally playing him for exactly 24 minutes a night, which is the minimum that they can get away with.
Yeah.
So as great of a team I think that could be, I really don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Let's see, other trades that stand out. Definitely the Sixers acquiring Tobias Harris is huge.
That was a shocker. Did not expect that. I didn't even know the Clippers were even shopping him, just because they're still the 8th overall seed. They started as early in the season. They were the number 1 seed for a week.
Right.
So this one shocks me, but I definitely see why they traded him, just because Tobias Harris is definitely a cornerstone player, but he's not the guy that's gonna take you over the hump. I think when it comes down to it.
The thing is, obviously Tobias Harris was the Clippers' best player. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he has a contract expiring coming up.
Yeah.
So he's in this spot where, yeah, he's performed well enough. He probably deserves a max contract. But if you're the Clippers, is that the guy you want to give the max contract to? And I think they decided that that's not their guy.
Yeah, and think about it. Like, he goes to a Philadelphia team where he's probably the fourth best player. And he went from the first best player on the team to, like, the fourth best. And that just shows you, like, how talented the Sixers are, but also just, like, where Tobias Harris stands on, like, the NBA elite.
Exactly.
Like, top 20 player for sure, but I can't say he's past 15.
Right. Also included in that was Boban Marjanovic, which I thought was a underrated piece for the Sixers to acquire and come off the bench for Embiid. Who doesn't want a 7'3" center, right?
Yeah, I mean, you got two big-ass guys manning your middle. Like, Boban's an offensive rebounding machine. The thing is, though, with the Sixers, they really depleted their bench. Like, their bench, I mean, Shaman was a big part of it, one of the best rookies this season. And, I feel like they kind of paid a hefty price, 2 first-round picks and 2 second-round picks for Tobias Harris.
Oh, for sure.
I think they could have gone away with just 2 first-round picks, or at least 1 first-round pick and 2 second-round picks.
So given all that they had to give up, are you expecting Tobias Harris to be re-signed by the Sixers in the offseason?
I'd say the Sixers re-sign either Tobias Harris or Jimmy Butler, but I don't see them retaining both.
Okay, fair enough. Let's see what else. Another top team in the East, the Raptors, traded for Marc Gasol, the longtime Grizzly. I thought that was a great trade.
I really like the trade. I know, I think he has a player option for next season. I don't see why not he would opt into it because he's mid-30s.
Not only is he making good money, but now he's on a great team.
And the thing is, though, like, I also like the trade for Jonas Valanciunas just because, you got Siakam, you got Ibaka in his way. Like, there was really no chance for him to get that starting role again.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because he's a pretty good player.
He's a pretty good player, but at the end of the day, I think the Raptors did the right thing, sent him off to a team that will play him more than, like, they'll play him what he deserves, and, they got a pretty solid backup center in return, arguably even better just because, like, Jonas Valanciunas was a great offensive center, like, really good rim protector.
Good rebounder.
And good rebounder. But the thing is, though, Marc Gasol's just better at that. Way better.
He's just been doing it for longer. I think Harrison Barnes going to the Kings was a pretty good deal for both sides, honestly. It relieves a lot of salary stress for the Mavs. And the Kings are trying to get, sneak their way into the playoffs. I think Harrison Barnes is a great acquisition with that goal in mind.
And I also think that, like, them trading Harrison Barnes, I think aspires a lot of hope for Mavs fans just because, Kristaps Porzingis is a restricted free agent, and I've been hearing rumors that he might just sign a qualifying offer for 1 year and then go back, hit the market. But, trading Harrison Barnes frees up a lot of cap space. So I think, like, if anything, as a Mavs fan, I'm looking at that as a good sign just because they had to clear cap space for a reason.
Right. I mean, it's definitely points to Porzingis staying in Dallas for a long time.
And I think, honestly, that's a great move for him as an organization. Just because, think about it. Think about how well the Mavs treat their European players. Like, honestly, probably the best in the league. Like, Dirk stayed there for 21 seasons for a reason.
Yeah. All right. What about, how do you feel about Markelle Fultz going to the Magic?
I like it. I think Markelle Fultz just needed that reset button. Just because it's like, Philadelphia, like, he was just so scrutinized. And, like, yeah, I understand he was the first overall pick. But also, like, think about it, like, he had a lot of shoulder problems. And, it's a lot of mental things, too, going on. It's just kind of, as a young player, that's just a lot to handle just because, everyone's expecting you to be great, but then you're dealing with this major injury.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of, like, hurts you not only, like, physically, but also mentally, like, just, like, people just talking down on you, and it ruins your confidence. And it's just, like, how do you expect someone to perform under that, like, constant pressure?
Yeah, and, there's obviously pressure being the number 1 overall pick, but I think also going to a team that became a contender, or, at least a fringe contender in the East, puts even more stress on you to be great and to be able to perform, against other contenders into the playoffs. And I think you're right. I think it's going to be a good move for Markelle Fultz, and honestly, probably both teams involved as well.
Yeah, I don't see Markelle Fultz being into that superstar everyone thought he was going to develop into, but I see him at the very least developing into a solid guy off the bench, giving you 15, 20 minutes to at least 10 to 12 points a night. I see that as this very low, as like absolute worst. But I still think he has the potential to develop into an all-star. It's just going to take some time. I think just going to a new franchise where these fans will be excited to have him just because the talent's there.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's can he knock down shots?
That's true. But the thing is, though, I think being in an environment that's more positive will help get his confidence back and help him get confidence back in his shot. And because, watching the Philadelphia games like he played in, he just didn't really look confident at all. He just always looked like he was very nervous and like just trying to do everything to please. And honestly, like having Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons as your other guys in the way from you handling the ball, I don't think it was good. Just because if you watched him play at Washington, like he was a guy who needed the ball in his hands most of the time.
He's a point guard.
He's a point guard. So I just think like the fit was just off for the 76ers to begin with. But I'm hopeful for him, and I hope nothing but the best.
All right, well, that's all the trades we're going to talk about. Before we move on, though, there were some signings that happened shortly after the deadline passed. I think the most significant of which was Jeremy Lin, who is finalizing a buyout with the Hawks, and he should sign with Toronto in the coming days. I think that's going to be another great acquisition for Toronto. It's going to bolster their bench unit, which is already pretty deep. But Austin, as I mentioned to you earlier, it couldn't have come at a better time for the Raptors because Fred Van Vliet is going to be out for 3 weeks with a left thumb injury.
If I'm a Raptors fan, I'd be excited for when Van Vliet gets back, just because that's going to be a nice backup backcourt to come in. I mean, DeLon Wright was a solid player, but I think Jeremy Lin's slightly better than him.
I would agree.
And I just think like, as a Raptors fan, like you got a shot. You really got a shot. Like your bench is like, I know you traded probably your best bench player in Valanciunas, but like at the end of the day you got Marc Gasol, and now you're getting Jeremy Lin. I just think like Jeremy Lin deserves to be on a winning team too, and so I'm very fearful of the Raptors though if the Warriors play them in the NBA Finals.
Yeah, it'll be a very fun Eastern Conference playoff for the first time in a while.
I mean, it won't be fun like the first round, but like that second round is going to be. I'd be paying attention to that more than I think the Western Conference, to be honest.
Right. All right. Let's see. Isaiah Thomas, made his name known in Boston. Is now, of course, a Nugget. Is going to be playing tonight after missing 11 months or so.
Yeah, it seems like forever, to be honest. And like, I forgot even IT signed this contract back in the offseason. But I'm so glad he's coming back. He was such like a dynamic scorer, such a dynamic offensive player, and I just like think about it. If like maybe he was like 2 or 3 inches taller, like damn, he would be really good.
Well, you look at the Nuggets, who are still number 2 in the West, and you try to find a weakness, and maybe I would say it's probably their bench unit. Not that they have a bad bench unit per se, but I think it could get stronger. And I think Isaiah Thomas, if he can perform like he did in Boston, is going to give him exactly that.
I think he'll definitely be a nice spark plug off the bench, but I really think the Nuggets should like limit his minutes. I don't think he should play more than like 25 minutes a game, just because it's like Isaiah Thomas is such like a dynamic scorer. I mean, he's like a microwave kind of guy, but at the same time, it's like that hip is very fragile, and it's just like you want to make sure he's preserved for the playoffs when you're gonna need those big buckets. Just because IT has been to the playoffs, and he's the guy that's probably gonna be relied on the most just to have got him through. Him and Paul Millsap, I think they provide that veteran leadership. So you want to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs.
Most definitely. Not to mention that every minute you have him on the court, you're sacrificing stuff on the defensive end.
Yeah, that's a big factor. It's mismatch all the time. But at the same time, it's like if you use him right, and I think Mike Malone's a really good coach. I think he has a chance to be really good for Denver down the stretch. But also like I hope he's good enough to rebuild his value, and I think he deserved that max contract a few years ago, but such an injury happened. But at the end of the day, I'm just glad to see IT back on the court.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, a couple big records were broken this week. James Harden has scored 30 or more points in, get this, 30 straight games. That's insane.
That's crazy. But the thing is, though, it's like I understand he's dropping that many points, but like I don't know. It was impressive at first, but the more I look at his stat line, I'm just really kind of not impressed. It just seems like he's holding the ball and sacrificing it for the sake of his for his teammates. And like think about the Thunder Rockets game. All of the entire game was James Harden's just going to shoot a step back three, and that's how they blew a 23-point lead, and the Thunder came back easily.
Yeah.
Just because James Harden got too into just like, hey, it's me against the Thunder. I'm like, it's a team sport.
Right, and for the first part of this streak, I can understand it because they were missing Chris Paul, and they're still missing Capella. And some games, and sometimes the reason that James Harden and the Rockets built that lead in the Thunder in the first place is because James Harden was stepping back and hitting shots. But you can't do that for 48 minutes a game.
No, it's because eventually the Thunder are going to make adjustments on the defensive end to stop that after halftime, and it's just kind of like, dude, you have other teammates, and I just think it's kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of selfish, and I don't know. The streak's really impressive, but at the end of the day, it's just kind of like watching him play. I just keep thinking this is the most selfish basketball player I've ever seen play basketball.
Yeah, it's
he's getting paid $30 million a year to just be a ball hog.
Yeah, it's if you look at the shooting percentages and all the shots he takes at the foul line, I'm not trying to discount what he did, but just put some perspective on it.
Yeah, just think about it. It's I understand he dropped 43 points, but at the same time, he put up 43 shots and only made 10 of them. That's not efficiency. He makes 100% of his free throws, but the reason why he's going to the free throw line is because he doesn't give the teammates his balls. So
right.
That's just on him.
Well, the other big record this week was Russell Westbrook of the Thunder recorded his 10th straight triple-double. The previous record was 9 straight triple-doubles, way back in the 60s, set by none other than Wilt Chamberlain.
My boy Wilt.
Yeah, it seems like anytime a Wilt Chamberlain record falls, it's a really big deal. He's been around, or he played so long ago, and he still has so many prominent records in today's record books. So props to Russell Westbrook. I was a little disappointed he got it against my Blazers, but that's how it be sometimes.
Yeah, honestly, Russell Westbrook's been playing really good basketball, and the one thing he's been working on a lot over this past year is just not overshooting it. And if you look at his stat lines now, it's he's getting triple doubles, but some games he's only getting 12, 15 points, but he's putting up 16 rebounds, 15 assists. And I just think he broke that idea of him being a selfish player, and James Harden can learn something from that.
Yeah, well, Paul George is really the reason that I think Russell Westbrook is able to take that step, not a step back, but maybe step into a more of a facilitative role. Paul George has been absolutely going off, especially the last few weeks.
I think, honestly, I would say my MVP choice would be Paul George.
I would agree.
Because it's he puts up 40 points it seems like every other game, but he's doing it at such an efficient level. He's shooting he maybe takes 20 shots, misses 4 of them. That's crazy. He makes 5 of them threes. That's crazy efficiency, and he's giving you hard effort on the fucking defensive end.
Yeah, that's the thing, is not only is he an MVP candidate, but he's also a Defensive Player of the Year candidate.
I just think right now there's no better all-around basketball player than Paul George right now.
I would agree. I was having a conversation with some people earlier today about Paul George and comparing him to Russell Westbrook or other small forwards around the league, and I'm not going to say Paul George is better than LeBron or KD or anything like that, but I'm going to say right now in this moment he is playing better than any other person in the NBA.
I agree with that. I think Paul George definitely I just sucks because people are starting to realize now this month he is a top 5 MVP candidate. I'm that train should have been on. That hype train should have been going since November.
Yeah. For me, he was always top 5, but this is the first time for me he's been top 3 or even top 1.
I think right now it's probably going to come down to Giannis, Paul George, and James Harden.
Right.
I'm really hoping James Harden doesn't walk away with it, but it's looking like that. And at the end of the day, I just hope the Rockets get eliminated early in the playoffs. That's all I got to say.
All right, let's talk about football. Kyler Murray, of course, the Heisman winner, played at Oklahoma, carried his team to a top 4 playoff appearance. Has officially said he wants to commit to football. He had already entered the draft a while ago, but of course he had the potential deal worked out with the Oakland A's, and he's come out and said, "Shit, dude, I want to play football. I want to be an NFL quarterback."
My heart broke a little bit just because I thought the A's might have gotten their center fielder for the future. But at the end of the day, I'm not really mad just because, like, I watched him play at Oklahoma. Like, I watched him throughout the season. That guy just loves playing football. And at the end of the day, it's like he's just choosing what he loves. And, yeah, he was a top 10 pick in the MLB draft. And he realizes that he might be, like, a mid-first round, like, early second-round pick. But he doesn't really care. He just wants to be an NFL quarterback. And I think at the end of the day, he made the best decision for him. And I see, like, he would be way behind the curve for MLB just because, like, he hasn't played baseball in over a year.
Mm-hmm.
And to expect him to just go to your major league camp and just ball out, it's kind of a lot. And I think his talents are better suited for football just because he's such an athletic guy.
Yeah, it's honestly just going to come down to what team is going to not care about his height. You know?
Yeah, honestly, I don't really see his height as an issue. Height is a big part of it, but think about, like, how many sub-6 foot quarterbacks have been successful. Russell Wilson, Drew Brees. He's listed at 6 foot. He's 5'11".
He's 5'11" at best.
He's 5'11", 5'10". And, you know, it's just kind of stupid. There are quarterbacks like Josh Allen out there who's, like, 6'5", can run for a bunch of yards, but can't really throw an accurate pass, whereas Kyler Murray might be smaller, but he can run for 200 yards and throw for 200 yards in the same game and be so accurate.
Yeah, you know, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, there are guys who are shorter than average. You know, Kirk Cousins, who have maybe had a good career, but Kirk Cousins certainly underperformed this year. Lots of swatted balls at the line of scrimmage. It felt like sometimes he struggled to see downfield over the lineman. But you know what? Kyler Murray, I feel like, is a lot more athletic. Maybe he just has that instinct, you know?
Yeah, but the thing is, though, like, the difference between Kyler Murray and Kirk Cousins is a pure pocket passer, where Kyler Murray is a deep threat. Yeah, he's going to be under duress, but think about how many times the pocket's going to collapse in football. You just need that guy that's going to make plays down and keep pushing the ball downfield. And I see a lot of Russell Wilson in him, but I think he has potential to be even better just because he's a way better quarterback than Russell Wilson was. And I just think he has more of a better arm. But, you know, it just shows that, like, you know, Kyler Murray is a good leader, good football player, and I'm glad he made this choice just because I think when it comes down to it, I'd rather watch Kyler Murray the quarterback than Kyler Murray the center fielder.
Yeah, I agree. For me, considering the teams who are perhaps looking for a quarterback in this draft, the Giants really stand out to me because
they're going to draft Dwayne Haskins, though.
I think they probably will. I think you're right, but if you look at, like, the talent that they have already in Odell and Barkley, it's just one more absolutely dynamic playmaker.
That would be that would be a fun combo. And the thing is, like, yeah, right now he's currently projected as a mid-first round pick, but I could definitely see him moving up to the top 10 if he has an absolute great combine and, like, workouts with teams. So, yeah, I would say he's definitely trending up right now just because there's no hotter name right now, I think, in the draft pool than Kyler Murray, just because you didn't know if he was going to play or not, and, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's exciting. I'm excited to see him play.
All right. How about the Browns signing Kareem Hunt, who, of course, was released by the Chiefs this season for a domestic violence issue?
You know, I'm a little upset just because it's like I just think there was a lack of discipline. I mean, I understand he's still on the exempt list, but I think he should have been, like, off that list before he could sign with the team. I just don't really see why, and I understand, like, he's a talented football player. But the thing is, though, there's so many repercussions with signing. It's probably a PR nightmare for the Browns right now. Mm-hmm. And it's just, like, I just think there needed to be more clarity with the situation than, like, than pulling the trigger. I don't know. I'm really against this signing.
Yeah, you know, I don't love it. I got it. You know, for me, my first thought was, what about Nick Chubb, bro? Nick Chubb was having a great year, or second half of the year. He was, you know, putting up 2 touchdowns a game, getting 100 yards a game at the end of the year. And there's strong likelihood that Kareem Hunt will have to sit, 6 games or so, and Nick Chubb will still be the lead back during that time. But for me, it's kind of like a little slap in the face if I'm Nick Chubb.
Yeah, honestly, Nick Chubb was having a great season. I think, if anything, like Kareem Hunt and him are kind of the same back. And it's just because, yeah, they're mostly runners, but they can also catch the ball on some screens. And the thing is, though, it's just like, I mean, I guess I could see like a two-headed monster kind of deal with like the Saints have. The thing is, Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram are completely different running backs.
Right.
And Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb is completely similar. So it's kind of like the Browns are going to have to choose.
Plus, you already have Duke Johnson.
Duke Johnson's and he's the perfect complement.
He's the Mark Ingram, and Nick Chubb is Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, and it's just such a, like, you need a power back and then a guy who's just like a dynamic running back. And so you'll see that with the Rams too right now. They have Todd Gurley, the guy who can make big plays, and you have C.J. Anderson, the bowling ball, who will just give you those few extra yards when you need it.
Yeah, and I understand that Kareem Hunt's a veteran. He probably is the most talented of those three runners, but if you look at the Browns as an organization and the players they have on their team, they're so young right now. I feel like Kareem Hunt doesn't really fit that timeline.
I mean, he was only drafted like 2 seasons ago. He's still a young player. But the thing is, though, I just think, like, just from a standpoint, I think it'll just disrupt the development of many players just because he's going to get more touches. And the thing is, though, you don't even know if he's going to play. And I understand he can't practice with the team. But at the same time, the Browns have something going for it. And the signing makes me question why they did it, because it's like you have something good and it's like this might just disrupt everything going on.
Yeah. All right. Antonio Brown, All-Star, or I guess I should say Pro Bowl wide receiver for the Steelers. All-Pro, there it is. Wide receiver for the Steelers has officially requested a trade. There's been some, I'm trying to think of a word, disputes between Antonio Brown and the Steelers organization in recent months, but he has now officially asked for a trade. Where do you see him landing, Austin?
Well, my preferred destination would be the Raiders.
And, of course, mine would be the Niners.
Yeah, and I think those are very two likely options just because, they can offer a lot. And I think they're willing to. I'd say I'd give the edge to the Raiders just because they have those 3 first-round picks. And the thing is, like, maybe they offer 1 first-round pick for Antonio Brown. The Steelers don't like it. Hey, we'll throw in a 3rd-round pick. That's enticing.
Yeah, most definitely. The thing is, if you take a step back and you have him in following the situation, your first thought would probably be, oh, damn, Antonio Brown, that's a all-pro player. That's at least a first-round pick. But the way that he's kind of gone about this process, not respecting the organization I think has lost a lot of respect for him. I think it's lowered his trade value, and a lot of teams are now thinking 2nd or 3rd round pick for Antonio Brown.
Yeah.
But that's the difference that the Raiders, or the advantage that the Raiders have is they can throw in that 1st round pick and it's not going to hurt them that much. Whereas, like, for the 49ers, no way the 49ers send a 1st round for Antonio Brown.
Yeah, because, like, honestly, you guys are so depleted with your early round picks, and it's just because of the Jimmy G trade.
Right.
The thing is, though, the 49ers are, like, on that cusp of being good again, like, really good again. And I just think, like, having a receiving course of George Kittle and Antonio Brown, those are 2 number 1, like, receiving options right there. And then they're both just on your team. Like, that's got to make Jimmy G salivate at the thought of that.
Yeah, most definitely. But at the end of the day, defense wins championships, and that's what we need to focus on right now.
Yeah, same with the Raiders. But at the same time, some team will take him. If you look at the Kareem Hunt signing, that just shows that, like, if Kareem Hunt can get signed by an NFL team, all like 31 other NFL teams should be, like, knocking on the Steelers door and be like, hey, what's up with AB?
Most definitely. All right, we're going to end with this last topic here. The Ravens and the Broncos have agreed in principle to send Joe Flacco to Denver. Of course, the move can't actually go through until March 13th, but this was just reported, I believe, this morning by Adam Schefter.
Yeah, I like the trade.
I love the trade.
I love the trade just because, like, Case Keenum's a good quarterback, but at the same time, he's very mediocre. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. I know he's, like, above average starting QB in this league, but at the same time, like, the Broncos are always, like, a relatively good team, but their quarterback play has been holding them back. Like, their defense has always been solid. Their offense just always held them back these past few seasons, and now that you have a guy who can just throw a deep bomb like that and accurate, I really like the trade, and it sucks to see Case Keenum go after 1 season, but he had to go after he threw 15 interceptions.
Yeah, you know what? Case Keenum just didn't work out, and sometimes that's how it is. And I think this is a really good deal for both teams because Obviously, the Ravens are going with Lamar Jackson as their future. Joe Flacco is sitting the last half of the season pretty much, and I felt bad for Joe Flacco. He's definitely earned his place in the league. I don't know if he's like Hall of Fame or anything. I'd definitely say he's not Hall of Fame.
No, but he'll just be remembered as that Ravens QB.
He's consistent as fuck.
He's really consistent. Like, he's not gonna wow you. The thing is, he takes care of the ball. He throws relatively accurate, and like up until this season when he had that injury, he's been pretty consistent injury wise. So like, he's been pretty consistent staying healthy. So I think that's exciting for Broncos fans, just because quarterback has been like hell finding for the Broncos, trying to find that quarterback.
I can't even remember the last time that the Broncos had a good quarterback aside from maybe the 1 year that Tim Tebow had. That was
they
really
had
good.
they had Peyton Manning.
Well, okay, true. There was Peyton Manning, but like I don't know. He was only there for what, 3 years, something like that.
But he came back with the Super Bowl.
He absolutely did. He did his job.
Well, I think that's it.
That's it. You're absolutely right. This has been Crunch Time for Awesome Man. I'm Noah Elkin.
See y'all later.